I would like to welcome everyone back to our wonderful afternoon session. If you have trouble finding your seat for our roundtable session, please find one of our team members stationed along the outside of the room, and they will be able to help you find a seat. But before we begin our final and most important session of the day, we have our final special presentation of the day. Please join me in welcoming to the stage spoken word artist Exposure.
How y'all doing? Y'all good? Cool. I like an audience that talk back. Cool? All right. So I'm Exposure, spoken word artist, born and bred in Akron, Ohio. I also do motivational speaking at public and private schools abroad. I work in the community with Jobs for Ohio graduates, those type of things. And I'm recently about to start working with some girls at Bookto High School. They decided to start a poetry club. So whatever, I love to network with you all. If there's anything I could do to help the organization or whatever you guys would like to do, I'm down for it. So I'm gonna do 2 poems and get out y'all way. The first is like an introduction poem, kind of figure out my story. My slogan for my brand, Team X, is we're all X something. So you have to remember to show people grace. Lights, camera, focus. Girl, 12, hopeless. Daddy, balls, cage, grief, love, rage. Mama works a job's slave, 3 jobs for 3 people, minimum wage. The fridge was empty, her kids was hungry. Listen to my struggle story. Unstable, unable to put food on a table. Depression, rejection, no vision, direction. I was crossing loved ones, that's a bad intersection. Ugly, worthless, unknown purpose. Joking, laughing, praying, crying, smiling outside. My insides was dying. Skin slicing, razor blades, turtleneck summers, hiding pain, misunderstood at a young age, seen myself but hated my face. Low self-esteem, rebellious teen, too hurt to live, too scared to dream. Mama stresses, mama sees, mom's in a psych ward, her kids can't see. The mom is home, the worst is over, her FMLA done and the house in foreclosure. Huge disappointment, sheriff's notice. I graduated high school, but my spirit was still broken. Self-sabotage, tainted images collage, self-doubt, burnout, college dropout. I broke down, I broke up, I broke through, then I broke out. Lights, camera, focus. Girl, 12, hopeless. Light bulb goes off, girl, notice, pen, pad, rhyme, joyous. Girl, bedroom, yellow walls, start canvassing her heart. She poured out it all. Her walls was full and she moved to paper. So poetry is my life's savior, my soul's savor, my voice flavors. I stepped out on faith, I stepped on stage. I closed the dead chapter and I opened a live page. I started to believe, now I'm coming from behind. I'm walking by faith, I'm up here talking blind, my gift done evolved. Motivational speaker, hit these old high schools, my old teachers, believers. Traveling the world, my gift done made room. I'm enjoying the process, coming out of my cocoon. God writes on the tablet of my heart, calligraphy. Healing the 12-year-old girl in the enemy. She found strength, she found voice, making a difference with her words of choice. XPOSYUR, remember the name and remember it well. For this is the power of a brand with a story to tell. Picture this. The system. Hi, my name is the system, and I lied when I said I assist them. The system doesn't assist them. Instead, I pain them. I drain them. I change them, their mentality. I toy with their emotions and finances when they try to get off of me. I work very closely with services of jobs and family. When you get a raise, they notify me like they do you. So 9 times out of 10, I already know what you make before you do. 8 times out of 10, I'm shooting your rent through the the roof. 7 times out of 10, I'm taking them food stamps too. 6 times out of 10, come up off that pip. 5 times out of 10, come up off that heat. 4 times out of 10, 4 strikes, you're out. 2 times out of 10, inspection notice is getting sent out, and there's a 1 in 10 chance that you will make it out. And I win again. I wish you would have the nerve to try again. Yes, I am the system, and I'm designed to keep you in. Now, I'm not too concerned about folks who are comfortable doing nothing because nothing don't line my pockets. But for those who are strong, willing, and able, it's my job to make sure you are never financially stable. I'll make you go through hell just to get approved for a box for cable. I'll make the walls paper thin and the heat only go up to 75. I'll give maintenance a universal key so they can enter unexpectedly. Don't be surprised. Yes, I am the system and I eat you alive. Some of my co-constituents and fellow employees have no humanity, nor do they possess customer service skills. Do not address me for where I live, but address me for who I am. I'll refer to you as a number, and I'll tell you to take a ticket. Don't go far. I expect you to come running when I pick it. Feed yourself and your children, because I'm taking up your whole day. You come down here in expectation, but I'm going to help you leave in disarray. I steal the hope your heart gives. I blind your future with present times. I make your surroundings speak devastation. Drizzle with a little stagnation. I want your soul to be detached from patience. For your conversation to always be negative and complacent. This is a relationship, you see. I help you and I help me. Let's stick this thing out, all right? Come what may. Yes, I am the system and my name is AMHA. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Exposure, for sharing your words and gifts with us. That was a perfect way to set the stage for our final session of the day. So this is the moment we've been gearing up for. It's time for us to put everything we've learned, both in this morning and this afternoon sessions, but also from your own work and through your lived experience. So you're probably sitting at a table that you're randomly assigned. We are going to try to consolidate the room a little bit. So we'll figure out how to do that. I don't know if you're at a table that has maybe less than 3 people, if you want to shift to a table that has, I think we're trying to aim for no more than 6 at a table, would be good. So community roundtable discussions, what does that mean? So all of us, including each of you, are going to break into groups and share our best ideas for lowering our eviction rate and for increasing housing stability in our community. We've allotted about 45 minutes for this discussion, and then we're going to pass around microphones to each table to share their top 1 or 2 ideas. So please assign somebody at your table who's going to report out on your group's behalf at the end. And then at each of the tables, there also is blank paper and a pen. Someone who has neat handwriting, which excludes me, should take notes. We're going to collect those notes at the end after your table reports out, and that's really going to be helpful for us as we put together the final action plan that's hoping that will come out of the summit. So don't forget to use any notes that you took throughout the day in the program to inform your ideas. And we'll have team members walking around the room if you have questions about how to do this and facilitate conversation. So just a few ground rules to keep in mind. Be solution-focused, speak to issues, not to people. Step forward and step back. Share your thoughts, then allow others their turn to speak. Be respectful. This may be a difficult conversation for some of us, as you could see with Dr. Desmond earlier, and it may actually be triggering. So respect your group members' thoughts and their vulnerability in sharing. And if you need any help, just ask. Just raise your hands, and one of us will come around to your table. Okay, if that's it. So if you need to move seats, go ahead and do that now, and we'll get started. Thanks. Okay, we're all gonna come back together now. So it sounds like we had some good discussions here, and so we're going to now go table by table and report out. So remember, we're asking each table to share just their top one or two ideas, and we have microphones floating around. So I'm going to hand it off to Jody, who's in the back, and she's going to start walking around. So.
My name is Samuel Garcia. I'm with Mahoney and Youngstown Community Action Partnership, housing manager, and just bought a home in Ohio. And anyways, just wanted to live the American dream. And anyway, so I'm sharing that because I bought a home that was former Section 8, and from property management, low-cost $35,000 home, had to fix it up a lot, but I was able to buy it cash because I used the individual development account, IDA account, federal money coming from the federal government, and they match you when you show that you can save, 3-to-1 match. So one thing I thought maybe we could utilize was get some nonprofits to be economic development distributors of that federal money, where you can save for 3 years, $3,000, and you will be matched by $9,000, something of that nature. And so that helps individuals, buy college, buy a first home, open a small business, things of that nature. So if we can get these homes to be in individuals' hands like we spoke of, we can take away the stress of eviction, we can take away many of those stresses, and take away the stress of things that cause violence in our communities. So, you've heard of YNDC, I believe in this area of Youngstown, Akron, I believe in these things. So that's what we spoke of here, the ways that we can teach financial literacy to individuals so that we can lead to home ownership, which will lead to actual community building, which will lead to actual solution of many things.
Hi, I'm Shana Carino. We talked about the ideas that we heard today in the sessions and through Dr. Desmond's question answering that really stuck with us, and we thought that they were immediate things that our community can do to start to tackle that problem. One of the overwhelming themes of today was there's not one overall solution, but it's chipping away, making it easier for people to become homeowners, making it easier for people to stay in rented properties, making it, giving some assistance to landlords and kind of a wraparound approach. So a couple of things were representation for tenants, and the right to counsel was a theme in most of the sessions that we were in, and how important that would be to the city of Akron, thinking that could be done through local ordinance. We talked about the housing court or some sort of mediation requirement before pre-filing, pre-eviction, and threw around some other ideas about lead abatement programs and things like that. But those, I think, were our top two.
Thank you. I'm going to take that, of course. Everything's pointing at you.
All right. Hi, my name is Beth Vild. I will try and stay on task of solutions. So one of the things that we were talking about is that the fines for slumlords are that's probably not enough. We probably need to actually look at prosecution because fines don't seem to actually change the issue. And that also we think AMHA should be doing inspections, but that also Akron needs more than 2 employees that do an inspection, and they also need to do more than 2 or 3 inspections in a year. We also talked about how our infrastructure helps breed rats, and that's something longer term that the planning department, I don't know if Jason Sedgety's still here, but something that the planning department really needs to look at, because that's where a lot of Section 8 housing is located around, is where the canal goes underwater, and that breeds rats, as well as other issues with the sewer project. And then one of the big things that we talked about for a while is that what we kept hearing throughout the day is that people need to be in good relationship with folks that are directly impacted by these issues, and not just eviction, but our health disparities throughout the city in general, and how grassroots organizers need to get paid, okay? Neighborhood organizers need to get paid for those relationships so that we can help poor Black people be heard by the movers and shakers in this town about what change needs to happen. Poor folks know what they need, but the folks that are going to be able to put that together in a nice document to use in policy work and actually start to move on those next steps are neighborhood grassroots organizers, and they need paid. Thanks.
Let's go right here.
All right. So my name is Marissa Little. I work for Neighborhood Network, which is a program of Habitat for Humanity of Summit County. We had a wonderful conversation over here. Some of our solutions we have address and become more inclusive surrounding differences like literacy issues, language, cultural differences. So that seemed to be a pretty big theme both for tenants and for property managers at our table. Then let's see, increased accountability. I mean, the word accountability was like every other word over at our table, but we kept on kind of diving deeper into what does that mean. So accountability for the people in power, like city, HUD, landlords, would be, having funding taken away, being accountable to believe the tenants. So, ensuring that you're not just, it seemed like, you just weren't believed. It was unfounded. Some of the things that you were saying were happening in your apartment. Just, I don't know, it's hard not to feel hopeless when people don't believe you. So also having power taken away. Tenants, sorry, I know. Okay, follow the lease, take care of your home, be a good neighbor. And then finally, organizing. So Deborah's a really great example of someone that has stepped up and organized her community. And I just wanted to highlight something Deborah said. She said, home is where you're supposed to feel safe. So really focusing on that as a community and making it happen.
My turn? Okay.
Hello. Our table basic discussion was around education. It starts at the very, very early age. One of the things we said was, when you go to school, they teach you how to add and subtract, and that's about the basis of the math or the financial literacy that you get. But it goes a little deeper than that. It goes all the way to saving those pennies, saving those nickels, and putting them aside for a rainy day, and just really teaching them the power of saving. And I think a lot of the challenges that our people are suffering from is just the lack of appreciating what financial education really means. And so it really does start at home, and with the teachers, and with the parents, and with your aunties and your uncles, really teaching them the basics of saving.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan DeLong. I also work for Neighborhood Network. Shout out to Marissa over there, who also talked for her table. But our table really focused on communication and community. One of our biggest things that we focused on was making sure that the community that was, the ones being affected by decisions are at the decision-making table. That was a really big idea for us. And then also, we very much think it's important to change the law so that tenants also are provided legal representation when going in for an eviction filing, and then also cracking down on LLCs, or at least figuring out what to do when no one can be held accountable in an LLC. So that's really what we focused on. Is there anything I missed? really everyone has been like saying really great stuff. So thanks.
I would just interject, and we want to make sure you all get out on time. So just if you guys can keep it to 1 or 2 ideas and maybe about 30 seconds, then we can get through the rest of the tables before the Night Center kicks us out. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Hi, my name is Tracy Person with the Planned Parenthood Advocates of Ohio. Y'all tired of hearing me, ain't you? This wonderful group, we all talked about empowering those communities that are living in impoverished situations by letting them understand what their rights are, but more importantly, obligate the homeowners, landlords, whoever to give full disclosure of everything that is happening within that unit so that the person who is going to be renting it understands everything that's in there so they can rightfully choose whether or not to sign those leases. Also, get with those who are establishing the policies, the housing and urban development at the State House. They have committees, and our suggestions are great hearing amongst ourselves, but these suggestions need to go to those committees who are making those policies and those who are doing the voting upon those. So those are the ones who have the power to make the change. They are elected officials. They are the ones who are supposed to be representing our voices. So we have to empower the people, and then we have to send them to the right people so that they can make those changes.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Dan Roberson with PNC Bank. I want to echo what was already said on both communication, empowerment, and also education. But when we're talking about education, we want to not only educate the people who need those resources, what's available, what's there, we also need to educate our workers, our people who are providing that support and that services to make sure that they're meeting people where they're at from a socioeconomic standpoint, understanding what social determinants of health that they're experiencing, and understanding that this advice that I'm giving to this person may not relate to the next person because they have something else on their mind, something else that's more important and a priority. So overall, effective communication, engagement, and education with all the resources that we all can connect together to empower them for the better.
Hi, my name is Lisa Brubeck. I'm with United Way. I think we shared the same idea with a lot of other tables, but some of the things that stuck out to us was making home buying a possibility. Reviewing what makes it so difficult for someone who doesn't bring in more than $40,000 a year to be able to actually get a loan and buy houses in the city of Akron. And not just have to rent for the rest of their life, because we do know that there is houses sitting empty and enough people to be able to buy them. We also talked about making sure that we look at the lack of education around tenant rights, people having free legal representation for those who make under a certain amount of income, but having the ability to represent themselves when they do have to go to court and face evictions. And just making sure that they're connected to different resources in the community that would be able to help them in those when they are in court.
Hello, my name is Luscious Baskin. I'm a case manager for Rapid Rehousing with the YWCA. Our top two were mediation requirements to file an eviction and the commodification of housing as opposed to treating it as a right.
I appreciate your timing. Hey everybody, my name is Alana Bell, she, her pronouns. I am with the Ohio Women's Alliance. We came up with 10. The two that we have today, the court evasive model that was described during our lunch, where basically there's mediation between the landlord and the tenant. And then the second one we chose is infestation remediation, basically pulling funds from the state, directing it to the cities, and allowing the cities to use that money to solve the infestation problems like we heard throughout today.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Terry Rogers, and with our table, discussion was ways to reduce eviction rates, and we came up with the solutions to evictions, and we focused on more financial support, make sure every neighborhood has reliable resources, more businesses in the neighborhood, micro businesses, tax incentives for businesses, and funded resources in the community.
My name is John Gran. I'm a retired part-time attorney. Both of our recommendations were spoken to earlier, so I will give you back your time.
Hi, I'm Maggie Parks from Project Rise, Akron Public Schools, and we also discussed a lot of the same things that you did, so we'll stick with mandatory mediation. We think that would have a huge impact, and centralizing our information, right? Taking city and county information, having it in one place would be a big help.
I'm Stephen Hooten. We came up with quite a few, but we'll narrow it down. The first we are lovingly calling the H-check. If anyone from Summit County gets their E-check every year for their car, this will essentially be the same thing for rental housing. Our second thing is allowing dependents of the household, allowing their income not to count for different benefits that the head of household may be able to get until they are 26, keeping that along the same lines as insurance.
So you, Jody.
I'm Chris Wilkins with Community Legal Aid. So we came up with two ideas that we thought were pretty good. The first is in order to combat these corporations that are buying up the properties, was to require yearly inspections in which the landlord must be physically present. If that doesn't happen, there's fines, and the rent is then put into escrow and cannot be obtained by the landlord until they show up in person. And then the second idea we had was to automatically seal any eviction action that does not result in the actual eviction of the tenant. So if the case is dismissed, if the tenant settles it, or if the tenant wins, that eviction record is sealed.
Hi, my name is Aaron Yeager. I'm with Akron AIDS Collaborative. Our group discussed multiple topics, but two of the solutions that kind of stand to the fore are, one, trying to do mediation and education before eviction notice is served, having tenants and landlords come together and informing them, both of them, of the resources available before you even have to resort to that. And secondly, having a high school class, I think that was discussed earlier, but also having a high school class dedicated to informing students of their rights as future tenants or current tenants, and also having a certification course for landlords, potentially on ethics, and also what they can and cannot do.
Bobby Saltzman from the Cleveland Legal Aid Society. We, again, covered a lot of things that were already said, but a big thing on the education piece paired with a PR campaign with that would provide education for people going through it, and also navigators to help with like the funding programs or any of the various requirements that renters and just individuals face. And then also potentially taking some of the older empty buildings in the area and turning them into homes for specific groups in general, like that have even higher issues getting into properties, whether it be single individuals, those that have background checks that can't be passed normally, and also dealing with fees for applications appropriately.
Hi, I'm Megan Sutherland with Summit County Public Health. We had a lot of ideas. Top two would probably be Akron is unique in the fact that we have a mental health court, so I really feel like mental health is strongly tied to housing, and we talked about it today, so somehow possibly combining a housing and mental health court, and hopefully they could possibly be the key holder of resources for housing with wraparound services, mediation, and kind of maybe the one-stop shop. That might be too much for the court system, but we do feel like we need some kind of centralized place where people can get information about all the pots of money, all the resources out there. Our other idea was already mentioned. We really felt like we needed to get upstream, get in the high schools, train kids to be ready financially, to rent, to own, whatever they want to do, minor home repair. I know our Health Equity Summit, they were talking about, people not having working toilets, and my husband being in the construction industry just thought that, he's blown away by that. He's like, that's like a $10 fix. Why aren't we teaching, I work with pregnant moms, why aren't we teaching women how to fix their own toilet? So getting out there and educating.
Hello, Heather Duncan with Community Legal Aid. We talked about a lot of things, but we kind of overall, one of our big ones was stop the eviction before it happens, make the mediation, the required mediation happen before the landlord can actually file an eviction, and make resources known to both sides, landlord and tenant, about money available, or if it's a fixer-up problem, something that the city might have for the landlord to be able to do that. And because once you file an eviction, it becomes tenant against the landlord. But if you start the process before the eviction actually gets filed, people are maybe more likely to resolve their differences. And right to counsel.
I'm Melissa Frangos from Community Legal Aid. We talked about pay to stay, right to counsel to address the power balance between tenants and landlords, and limiting evictions to good cause evictions. So you can't just give someone a 30-day notice so you can renovate and then increase your rent.
Yeah, I'm Michael Howard. I'm with the Living Water Association. So our top three were community-focused court, holding landlords accountable, and easier access to resources and information to help people through their obstacles.
Hi, Josh Pelfrey, staff attorney at Community Legal Aid Services. Wow, y'all covered basically most of our good ideas, but a couple I want to also throw out there. We could consider providing no-strings funding incentives for tenant union organizing, making sure that it is protected activity and that landlords know they cannot evict people for organizing tenant unions, and making sure some of that no-strings funding can be used to pay the organizers. On top of that, something else we could reconsider, new rent control programs, and say capping the rent at like fair market value for whatever the area is. And if the landlord, for whatever reason, is still saying, "Oh, I'm going to lose out," they still have access to rental assistance. So that's not really a concern that would really hold up that problem.
Hello, I'm Clinton Householder from Community Legal Aid. One of the ideas we came up with was we just need to adjust the benefits cliff in general so more people can take advantage of the programs and resources that already exist. Secondly, we heard a lot today about how many people just don't show up to their eviction hearing. So we thought how great it would be if the court were to create a video that explains what to expect with the process, where you stand in court, how you submit evidence, that sort of material, and include that on eviction hearing notices. So that way people aren't as intimidated or fearful of the process, and they know what to expect. A lot of the notices now just list the court's address. Doesn't do anything to address the intimidation factor and fear factor. So if you get something from the court, I think that might be helpful.
Stephen Ellsworth, Fair Housing Contact Service. We had a bunch of ideas, one of which I'm going to repeat because I think it's a good idea. Both of these involve change in legislation. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. One was the inspection of rental properties prior to a landlord leasing, and then annual or biannual inspections thereafter. Also, to extend the amount of time the tenant can be late on their rent before a landlord can serve them with a 3-day notice and then file for an eviction. Because currently in the state of Ohio, I believe it's 1 day, a tenant can be late on their rent, landlord can give a 3-day notice, so we propose that extension of that day.
And I think we're at the last two.
Oh, I thought I was the last. As you can see, there's a pattern here. The legal aid lawyers are the table monitors. So our table, we also thought about before court and the filing of an eviction and getting to the landlords and tenants prior. First thing was education, short-term resolution. We got to get the landlord and tenant to the table, community hall meeting, something like that, advising them of their resources, rights, and obligations on both the landlord and tenant sides. Also short-term, revising the local laws regarding, or ordinances regarding building inspections, apartment inspections, housing inspections, and certification with real sanctions for not corrective measures being taken. In the long term, we talked about affordable housing banks and a focused implementation of affordable housing banks, as well as long-term legislation to really revamp landlord-tenant law to prevent the failed, broken relationship that exists right now.
Good afternoon, Dawn Glennie from Greenleaf Family Center. We thought of one that hasn't been mentioned. What about mandatory language in leases that specifically talks about how tenants can put their rent in escrow and when they have an issue? I know a lot of times people just don't pay their rent thinking they're doing the right thing, but if we had mandated language in leases that informed tenants how they can legally put their rent in escrow, maybe some improvements in property would be handled more swiftly. Thank you.
Okay, Greg Saying, Legal Aid. We discussed education on two levels, individual education and community-based education. On the individual education level, we were talking about early intervention, which people have already spoken to a little bit here. In other words, what we were hoping to is develop a system where prior to the court filing, and now when that would occur, would it be the 3-day notice or even earlier, ideally earlier, but basically the idea of early intervention as a way to get to the problem, try to get the resources together, try to help solve the problem before it actually gets to the court system. The other thing we talked about was, from a community education perspective, the idea was to try to see if there was a way to maybe monetize the cost-benefit analysis. In other words, what is the community cost, and is there savings that we achieve in the community? And is there a way to pass that savings on to homeowners, taxpayers, that kind of thing within the community, so they would be more involved and more take more ownership in the successful resolution of cases without going to the court system?
Is that it? Okay. Wow. Wait, I'm seeing hands wave. Am I? One more, sorry.
I'm coming.
I just wanted to say, you know what's really helpful for landlords and tenants is when I rent any properties, I put with the lease, they get a pamphlet that has landlord rights and tenant rights. You could get those through your county. They're really nice, little pamphlets that, you make sure that the tenants get so that they know exactly what the landlord has to do and what their rights are.
Okay, well, thank you for all engaging in these discussions today. I do want to pause just for a moment to recognize that we have never had a dialogue like this on this scale in our community, and you guys were a part of that, and so please give yourselves a round of applause. So we're going to do a lot of applause here for the next couple minutes. So before we close out today's event, I do want to take a moment to recognize those who made this event possible. So first, our sponsors, including our presenting sponsor, the City of Akron, our supporting sponsors, the Gertrude F. Orr Foundation, Third Federal, and the LeBron James Family Foundation. Our in-kind sponsors, Friends of Main Library, Akron Metro, and ABM Parking, and the numerous table and nonprofit sponsors who made this event possible. And you can find a full list of our generous sponsors in the program, so please join me in thanking them. I also want to thank our co-host, Fair Housing Contact Service, for putting up with us on this years-long journey. Tammy and your team, we really couldn't have asked for better partners, and so please thank you to them. We also want to extend our sincere appreciation on behalf of all of us at Legal Aid and Fair Housing to the members of the Planning Committee, without whom this event would not have been possible and have really put in hours and hours and hours. And that's the City of Akron, Mayor's Office, Akron City Council, Akron Summit County Public Library, East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation, Freedom Block, and ML Schultze. So thank you to them. More hoots, too, if you want, I guess. We also want to thank Summit County Executive Shapiro and Mayor Horgan for recognizing the importance of this work through their proclamations declaring this week Eviction Prevention Week. We want to recognize and thank all of our panelists, our press partners, Josh Branch Productions, who's doing the video, photographer Dale Dong, and the staff at the John S. Knight Center for all your efforts in making today such a great success. It goes on. There's a lot of good things happening in our community. We want to thank Akron's Eviction Task Force and the Landlord Tenant Council. These groups have been working continuously to increase housing stability in our community, and without the groundwork that they've laid, today's event really would not have been possible. So thank you to them. And finally, we want to thank each and every one of you for showing up today, really engaging in this process and wanting to make our community better. So thank you to you. And before I close out entirely, I'm going to ask Ray Green to come on up. This is Ray Green from Freedom Block.
What up, though? So yeah, the planning team, let's give the planning team another round of applause. We have labored with love to put this on for you. But with the planning team, you can't have a planning team without having leaders that leads you, that keeps you on track, that makes sure that this goes through without a hitch, that loses sleep, that looks at every part of the agenda to make sure everything is on point. And we will be remiss not to recognize those two people. The first person we want to recognize is Miss Lauren. If she can hop up here. Just keep clapping, it's going to take her a minute. Lauren, we thank you for your leadership. We appreciate you so much. You have the scars to show how diligently you worked on this for us, and we really appreciate you. And this is from the planning team and the Freedom Block. And as she hobbles up here and tries to stand on one leg, she has the scars, but our fearless leader, I have learned so much from this lady, her tenacity, her love, her compassion for people, for this cause, for everything, just making sure everything was on point, everybody was on point. She's one of the few people in this world I'm scared of. She is just amazing, and this does not happen without Maria. And she tried her best to stay out the limelight all day, but here we are.
I'm so mad at you.
Thank you so much.
I'm so mad at you.
I tried to warn Ray what the wrath he would incur tomorrow, but I washed my hands of it. So it's that time of day where we wrap things up. and I'm supposed to talk about where we go from here. The truth is, the answer to that question are all the ideas you guys just conveyed in the last several minutes. Our community really is committed to change in this area, and that's evidenced by all of you participating in this summit today. The only question really remains is how are we going to do that? So over the next few weeks, our team is going to compile all the ideas that you presented here today. We're going to continue to engage with stakeholders who were not able to be present today, and we're going to continue to hear from the community about ways we can improve housing for ourselves and our neighbors. And the Planning Committee will issue a report within a month that outlines an action plan for our community to tackle the eviction crisis head on, and we will keep you informed and engaged throughout that process. So as we close out our event today, this isn't an ending. This really is just the beginning of a new chapter for our community tackling this really important issue, one that will see fewer displaced families and individuals, better health and safety for our residents, and greater stability for our neighborhoods and for our community overall. We're committed to not only keeping this conversation alive, but to keeping it moving forward. So thank you for joining us today, and stay tuned. Thank you. Class dismissed.